Good afternoon, everyone. So, great company, great food, and then stories to hear. What a great way to end the week. So I'm Chitra Dorai. Some of you may have already looked me up, and some of you are even more enterprising. You've looked me up and already sent me a connect on LinkedIn. And for those of you, the few of you who don't know who I am, so let me introduce myself. So I'm Chitra Dorai, computer scientist specializing in AI in computer vision, and I spent after my PhD, I spent 21 years at IBM. IBM Research, which is northeast of your location. And actually during my tenure at IBM, I've had strong association with NJIT, so I'm very glad to be here. For many years, your provost had run a series called Industry and the Doctoral Student, and I remember coming multiple times as a representative of IBM to talk to all the students to encourage them to look at industry as another avenue as they, after they graduate. So I think last time I came here was 2009, and in between now 10 years have gone by, and my life has changed incredibly too. So I thought I'll tell you three stories, and these stories are the undercurrents of my passion, my love for science, and my imagination for what the world can mean, and most importantly, my passion for giving back to the world, doing something impactful to the world. I always quote this whenever people interview me, the great Richard Hamming's words: if you do not do important work, if you do not address important problems, you are not likely to do important work. And that has been the thread right from my undergrad in terms of the kinds of problems I've chosen. The first story I'm going to say, so to finish up the introduction, so I spent 21 years at IBM and grew through all the scientists, published hundreds of papers, books, you can look up on patents and so on. And I also was appointed IBM Fellow. I'm the first Indian woman in the globe to have been appointed as an IBM Fellow in IBM's 108-year history. I'm one of the 289 individuals. Thank you very much. So, and then I was global. The last position I held at IBM before I left last year was I served as the global CTO for AI, going around the world, addressing the CEOs and the C-levels of many different industries, many different companies, encouraging them to embrace AI. So last year, I stepped out of IBM in order to start my own company, seeing that this time AI has reached an inflection point. I'll get to that. And Amy has already given you a glimpse of what AI can be. So the AI this time is real. I've been a lifetime student of AI, 30 years of AI work since my master's, from neural networks to hard computer vision. So I have seen what it can be, and I have also seen its failures, and but this time it is real, and therefore I came out to make that story even more concrete by making AI available to the dementia and Alzheimer's patients. I'll get into it, my company. I launched this startup called Amicus Brain, because everybody fears of AI, so I deliberately named my company Amicus Brain, AI being a friendly companion to humans. So I'll discuss what Amicus Brain is doing now, but let me tell you the story. I'm going to take you back to 2008. I was at IBM, and US and the entire world was in the grip of economic crisis, and the housing market, which is one of the key pillars of the US economy, was in crisis, and it was in the worst crisis since the ever Great Depression. So about 50 million US homeowners have had loans at that time with their banks, whether it was credit union or the big banks, and 14% of them. So we are talking about 7 million US families were delinquent by more than 3 months. So for 90 days, they had not paid their monthly payments back to the bank, or they were facing foreclosure. Foreclosure means being evicted out of your home with your personal effects and everything, and what a traumatic effect it can be when you get foreclosed. So that was the situation, and some of you may not even know, but many of us felt the crisis, our wealth being diminishing in value. Some of the youngsters here might have faced the effect of that crisis because they were unable to find jobs, and some of you were probably young and probably you have seen the effect it had on your families. So I was in research, and I became part of an IBM team, and we launched a new business working with Fannie Mae, which is now in government conservatorship. It had several tens of millions of loans in its book, and much of them was delinquent. So our business value was that we would actually work with these delinquent loans, understand what is causing their hardship, temporary or permanent, and provide them the right help so that we can have them stay in their homes. So I came out of research in order to bring all the research innovations in AI and machine learning in order to make an impact on this crisis. So soon, the moment I saw how this crisis had unfolded, what had happened during the time of housing bubble, it was apparent to me that many house owners were way over their heads. Some really needed the most help because their families, their children went to school in that community and they were facing foreclosure. But some, this was their second home, so they didn't. It was not going to be impactful if they were foreclosed. So this kind of information, whether the homeowner's heart is in their home or is it something, it's just another property, you cannot find it in any quantitative data. And financial services often use quantitative data to build what we call propensity to default, right? Probability of default. But this emotional ties, the emotional story cannot be culled from any of the quantitative data. That meant reading, whenever you call financial services, any banks, your calls are being recorded. That means these speech recordings were available, and the agents who took your calls actually made notes in terms of what you said, what you asked for. So that kind of data, millions and millions of recordings, call recordings and logs were untapped in terms of their what they were conveying about the hardships of the US homeowners. So I stepped in, I introduced a lot of machine learning techniques, text analytics, and speech recognition algorithm in order to cull through millions of, I myself read 100,000 loans over a course of 2 years, what the voice of the US homeowners were. So I built a number of solutions with my team, and within less than 3 years, we saved thousands and thousands of US homeowners from foreclosure. And the client saved more than $50+ million that would have gone had these homes been foreclosed. And most importantly, for the US homeowners to walk away with dignity. That was because foreclosure is so stigmatic in the US, because we wanted to provide them their best help. So through that story, what I was conveying to you is that I always want to bring the technology, what technology can do, to the real lives of the people. So now fast forward, I now quit IBM, and I looked at, I knew what I was going to do when I quit IBM last year, because to give you, I started looking at the aging crisis. I call it the graying globe. 5.8 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's today, and the number is expected to rise to 14 million by the end of 2050. Every 65 seconds, in the last minute I spoke, somebody in the US is developing this disease. And more than 16 million Americans were caring for this, for their families, for their loved ones with dementia and Alzheimer's, and unpaid. This is unpaid care. And the amount of time they had put in, if you put a dollar value, it's more than $230 billion. So you can imagine, therefore, there is a crisis brewing. I often liken it to the focus we had in the second half of last century in terms of cancer. We are all living longer. We are able to replace our arms and legs and many other things, body parts. But brain, we don't have anything to replace brain. If you replace, then it is not you. So we have to live with the brain that we have, and our brain is under tremendous stress. And it's not that everyone is going to be diagnosed with dementia, but some of us will be, and the numbers are large. So I felt, particularly in this scenario, AI can really bring great value in terms of caring for these patients. These patients ask repetitive questions, and they are not engaged. Even if you had home care, if you had nurses coming in, you're caring for their physical safety, but not their mental stimulation. So if you're caring for that, the patients are going to ask repetitive questions. Even if you have so much love, at some point, I've seen the caregiver snap because it's repetitively being asked the same question because they are forgetful. So that's where AI can step in and provide continuous, courteous care that even families cannot provide. So you can see the scope of what Amicus Brain is trying to do. So Amicus Brain is building humane AI-first solutions to improve the quality of life for both patients and the caregivers, thereby reducing the risk of burnout for the caregivers and improve the sense of well-being for the patients. So my first story really leads me to the next question of where the current work of Amicus Brain is focused on. So I'm going to skip a lot of the charts because I know we will run out of time, and Amy has given a fantastic introduction. Let me use this chart page to focus on some of the issues that are still to be addressed in AI. So we are all using Siri. We talk to Siri, we talk to our navigation systems talk to us. So it's all about knowledge base, foundation, and search. That's where a lot of the AI technology today we experience is about. And I myself built a number of chatbot-based solutions to help companies contain their customer care expense. Immediate improvement of reducing the second time calls in contact center by more than 20%, and improvement of customer satisfaction by several percentage points. So you can see more and more chatbots and voice assistants are coming into our life very pervasively. Many of you have Alexa in your homes probably. So all of this is actually bringing speech recognition and to the extent or even emotional detection, what you're talking about is being utilized pervasively in real time. But what is something is missing though, which is really understanding the tone and the emotion and the context of the conversation. Suppose I take Alexa for dementia. Let's do a thought experiment. In fact, there is Alexa for dementia skill that is available. Alexa is a Q&A bot at the end of the day. Will patients think about the patients. Are they going to be asking questions? No, it's actually the reverse. The bot needs to be engaging the patients to make them talk so that they are not feeling isolated, they are not keeping quiet. So it's a different kind of bot one has to build, and the AI is just not there. So that's what Amicus Brain, we are actually breaking new ground in terms of some of the tough AI questions in deploying AI in real world situation where your dementia patients are I would say they are the toughest customers in terms of problem requirements. So it's really about experience. It's really about having that ability to have open dialogue. And that's where the whole chatbot revolution is poised to happen in the next few years. Likewise, AI is also increasingly being used in helping us to decide what to do next. Right? So you've heard of AI being used by IBM in terms of oncology, helping physicians figure out the right kind of clinical care. So now AI is being assistant and executive assistant supporting the decisions of physicians. And I myself, when I did that work for foreclosure crisis in the US, I used AI to be the decision support to the loan officers in order to figure out the right kind of solutions for the delinquent homeowners. So this decision support is a growing market opportunity. Some of the estimates say 2 trillion by the end of 2025. Just to give you a baseline, global IT spend is about 1.4 trillion. So just this, AI assistance helping us harness, look through the data, cull true value, and mix it up with the industry domain, industry expertise to provide the right kind of advice, whether it's in wealth management or it's in disease management. It's all about risk management, and AI can certainly play a big role in that. And I'm using some of the similar kind of AI-based decision support in helping the aging population to figure out the right kind of healthcare benefits. Today, if you need to figure out whether someone who is going to be 65, you have to go to different places: Medicare, Medicaid, Part A, Part B, Part C. The information is available, but very fragmented. There is no one place to go. You can, of course, have accountants and attorneys, elder care attorneys figure that out, but it's very expensive. I want to level the playing field, that everyone in the US who is in need of any kind of healthcare benefit should have the ability to go to one place and get neutral, objective advice, so they can figure out they can live out the rest of their life with dignity and as much happiness as they could. So that's really the focus of Amicus Brain. I've already mentioned some of the statistics. So if you have any of the if you have in your family, I always, whenever people see me today, they have their story to tell. It's either in their immediate family or in their extended family. There's someone whom you know is going through it. And so I welcome you to reach out to me so that we can actually provide these services free of cost as we roll out this. So in July, there will be a major Alzheimer's conference in Los Angeles, and we will be there demonstrating some of the solutions, AI solutions we are building. So, but I do want to, as I build this out, I mentioned the third thread in my entire life, having the impact for on the larger humanity. Let me just go back. Yes, this is about using AI responsibly also. As I now 30 years of looking at what AI can do, cannot do, and how it can be. There's a lot of misperception in terms of its use. There's one school which is presenting a very dystopian view of the world, how AI can, we will have computer overlords, to another one which is probably naively optimistic in terms of AI being the magic to solve all our problems. I think my belief is there is a middle ground. As long as all of us, the scientists especially, we are very deliberate in the way we are building the technology. So I call it, my passion is to drive art in AI, accountability, responsibility, and transparency. Every one of us should have the ability to ask, what is in the solution, right? AI solution that I am using? How is it going to use my data? How is it being personalized? And what are all the unexpected consequences of AI? Yesterday, probably you read the news about how Facebook's platform was unfortunately leading to discrimination in the housing industry. So that's an unintended, right, consequence of that. But for me, the worry is the people who put together the system and the people who came to it did not think about how carefully one has to approach technology. So I'm also focused on, therefore, Amicus Brain is all about being responsible, accountable, and transparent in the way it's building its solutions as well as it's deploying its solutions. So that's really it. I'm sure I've taken more time. Thank you, and we will have more. We'll have tax here.
Thank you very much, Chitra and Amy.